I have been waiting to do this video forever. And ever, and ever, and ever, and ever. Because I don't like The Exorcist. And while my reasoning isn't as funny as Beetlejuice, it does, well, rhyme a little.
I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it!
Emergency creative? Nah, why not just call the channel Jordan Hates Everything? This way I could drink more. YouTube loves that shit. My name is Crumbine. I am a writer, filmmaker, creative enthusiast, and this is Emergency Creative. Also, yes, I make these videos for my mental health, which yeah, is that's just about as stupid as it sounds. Which is almost as stupid as this sounds. The reason I do not like The Exorcist is the exact same reason I enthusiastically binged the 4-season streaming show Evil all in a single week. The Exorcist was very much a movie of its time. The core Judeo-Christian belief system that exists as a foundation to the movie's premise was broadly accepted as true by roughly 90% of the population in the 70s. That is versus roughly 65% who identify as Christian today. These are US numbers, and they come from the General Social Survey and Pew Research Center. So, if you watched The Exorcist prior to the 1990s, you basically just accepted the premise of demon possessions and a priest's ability to cast said demon out by way of exorcism. All of that completely at face value. And of course, the younger you were when you watched The Exorcist prior to the 90s, the more effective the horror likely was, thereby shaping your opinion of the film for a proverbial lifetime. But what if you don't believe in God? What if you were an atheist in the 70s when The Exorcist came out? What if you simply don't buy into the core premise of the film, that demons exist and the only way to battle them is through Catholicism and ultimately exorcism? This is exactly why The Exorcist never worked for me. Creative art, like movies, are I believe they are fundamentally empathy machines, or at very least, they function best when they work on an empathic level, allowing the audience to get inside and understand the thoughts and feelings of characters we might never have understood otherwise. The Exorcist doesn't do that, at least not for me. It assumes I believe in God, which then assumes that a subliminal flash frame of a face that purports to be the devil would actually be scary for some reason. Instead, for me, well, it's like Beetlejuice says, that shit keeps getting funnier every time I see it. The Exorcist used the fact that 90% of the population identified as Christian as a crutch to avoid doing the work of crafting a believable story that would stand the test of time. Unless you believe, this movie is not accessible and instead plays like Catholic propaganda. Which is not at all the case for Evil, a 4-season show streaming on Paramount. And at first, that's almost weird, because Evil goes way deeper into the demonic mythology of Catholicism. Evil probably does more exorcisms than the whole entirety of the Exorcist franchise combined. Evil fundamentally treats religious beliefs as, well, an almost absolute truth, similar to The Exorcist. So why do I love this show when I cannot stand that movie? Well, it's simple. The show treats skepticism with the respect it deserves, which gives a broader audience, the non-religious identifying population, an angle into the show, the characters, and the narrative. I like this show over that movie because here the empathy engine actually works. Evil is another show created by Michelle and Robert King, probably best known for their Good Wife franchise. But Evil plays, well, this show plays more as a spiritual successor to one of my personal favorites, Braindead, a one-season show that tackled the mounting stupidity in Washington, D.C. through the narrative device of invading alien brain bugs. It's great, trust me. Go watch it.
But space bugs crawl into Red's brain and start controlling him. He steals a Democrat and flips him to Republican. You know your day was lousy when somebody's head explodes on you.
Likewise, Evil, which premiered in 2019, tackled the growing sense of evil in the world today, basically suggesting that evil itself was organizing and weaponizing modern society to spread the unholy word. It's kind of like The Exorcist meets The X-Files meets, I don't know, evolution, maybe. And the whole reason the show works is, well, it's because of that X-Files premise. The main cast consists of the skeptical psychologist, the priest-to-be, and the scientist/technologist. In other words, a three-spoked empathy engine. If you're already a believer, Mike Coulter's David is your angle into the show.
The problem with my job is that possession looks a lot like insanity, and I need someone to help me distinguish between the two.
If you are an atheist, Katja Herber's Kristen, she's your gal.
Is my client possessed by a demon?
Are you referring to demons metaphorically or clinically?
And if you are agnostic or of a different faith other than Christianity, Asif Manvi's Ben is your guy.
Someone is hacking him. It's not spiritual, it's not the devil, it is internet advertising. There's an explanation for everything, but people would rather believe in ghosts, demons.
But look, it's not just these lead characters that help an audience step into the show. The characters work as assessors for the Catholic Church, and like the X-Files, each week they have a new demonic case they have to investigate. Their job is to literally debunk whatever the religious claim is. They approach every case with skepticism. And they succeed. Most of the time, every bit of the woo-woo the investigators are looking into, they find a real-world, non-religious explanation for. At the same time, that core premise, evil is organizing and manipulating society, that premise is given space to breathe underneath the case of the week routine. So while most of the show does in fact debunk the bullshit, this greater demonic truth is still built up gently, slowly, and even the hardened skeptics on the show discover things that they have no explanation for. Instead of shoving the religious propaganda down my throat, Evil creates its own in-show narrative truth for the religious elements, grounding it in the world of our skeptics, and critically isn't afraid to call out Catholicism for all the awful shit it does, you know, like diddling little kids and protecting the priests who do the diddling. Yeah, there are plenty of extremely pointed jabs within the show. But the point is, this is how an empathy engine should work. I do not buy into religion. I think The Exorcist is laughable and Catholicism is dumb. Yeah, let's see if that gets any hate comments below. In fairness, I think all religion is equally as dumb. But this show gives me a framework to care about the characters and the story despite my beliefs. And it's engrossing because of it. It's also just as funny as it is legitimately scary. And the reason I think the scares work so well in this show is because it doesn't focus on gore and cheap horror tropes, but instead it builds on the suspense, tension, and horror, well, of a dark room. The unseen, that which could be lurking in the darkest shadows of the room. There is a lot of dream versus reality, which, yes, can be tropey. Oh, it was just a dream, never mind. None of that actually affects the story. And that trope can instantly eradicate tension unless you've done something like, say, A Nightmare on Elm Street, where what happens in your dream has real-world consequences. And I would argue that Evil does a pretty damn good job balancing that, you know? And the show really is funny, too. And intentionally so. Sorry, Beetlejuice, which is another point for a more skeptical audience. It's not taking itself seriously, and it's not afraid to make a joke out of Catholic mythology. Going back to the main characters and that empathy engine, they all have these arcs that challenge their beliefs, both the priest and the skeptics. Especially in the last two seasons. Even after Mike Coulter's character gets ordained, the show still challenges his convictions. Not to make him stronger in faith, but to say, hey, this smells like bullshit, and even the Catholic institution is having a hard time buying their own propaganda. And that makes the evil in the Evil television show, that makes it even more scary. Way more scary than whatever the hell The Exorcist was trying to do. Because when evil persists, despite the Catholics' conviction or even their doubt and skepticism, you realize that there is something even darker at play. And by shattering the cultural foundation of Catholicism that these demonic fictions are built upon, that allows the show to shape its own foundation, unique to the narrative of the show itself, which basically entirely eliminates the suspension of disbelief problem that made The Exorcist so inaccessible to me. Evil is a fun show. If you haven't seen it, add it to your list. And if you have seen it, let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments exactly why I'm so terribly, awfully, no good wrong for not liking The Exorcist. Like and subscribe if you like liking and subscribing. And if you really appreciate what I'm doing here, be sure to check out my feature film and my novels. The links are down there in the description. Until next time, hey, stay creative, friends.